Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having such good taste and choosing the best panel at this conference. We have very low ambitions here. We want you to walk away and say this was the best panel, and maybe the best panel you attended ever. So, my name is Nikolaus. We will all introduce ourselves, but without further ado, I would like to introduce Annamaria from FFG. It's the Federal Research Promotion Agency of the Republic of Austria, who's going to talk about Expedition Zukunft, Expedition Future, a new program, a new approach for financing systemic change that is pretty radical, and it's going to set us up for the conversation that we're going to have about innovative finance. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves, the fellow panelists, after Annamaria has shared some words with us.
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to have a small presentation, an impulse presentation for you for about 10 minutes. My name is Annamaria, and I'm a program manager at Expedition Zukunft. It's an initiative for breakthrough innovation. That means that changes can happen technological or society-wise or for the market. Breakthrough innovation are therefore something for the future. They're changing our future, and this is why I'm here to talk with you how all our acknowledgements after 2 years of funding breakthrough innovation with a new approach. If you send me the presentation, please, on slide 2, would be great. Okay, so I talk to you like this.
Freestyle.
Freestyle. I'm good luck that I have my notes with me. So when I think about the future, I'm really a daydreamer. So what are you dreaming of when you think about a better future? Peace, please. Peace, yes, it's a good one, of course. Well, some of my friends are dreaming about green fields, everybody to have something to eat, equality in the world. Others, maybe somebody who's sitting in the wheelchair and loves the mountains, maybe dreams of being able to live on the top of the mountains alone on himself. I love cities. I really love to live in cities, but I really would like them to be more human-centered. All the cars going under the earth, and with beautiful design, where maybe the design is also functional. So it makes energy, it filters the air or whatever. The society is focused on well-being, and we can meet each other in different places. So to talk with others in green places that you can reach by 5 minutes going barefoot. Well, anything what we do it's really about changing something, when you really want to change something so big. And when you think about changing a system in this kind of way, it's quite challenging, because such systems are really complex. On one hand, you really have to think about the society. Even if you go business to business, maybe the end product will go to a customer, and the society is very diverse. Maybe you look at it and it looks very similar, and everybody looks like that. But if you put an internet platform, so everybody can reach it and everybody can look what's on it. But if the content doesn't interest me, I'm not going to go on it. If I don't have the time because I have 3 kids and full-time jobs, I'm not going to go on it. So when you go for the society, please think about diversity of the society. And the society loves the comfort zone. Yes, it really loves it. So think about the norms of the society. If you want to go against those norms, you really have to do something about this, think about their fears. What does it mean to go out of this comfort zone? What kind of fears do they have? So when you go for that, then you have really to address the needs of multiple groups to improve the situation for multiple groups, and really also to go for emotionality and not only for the logic, because somebody out of the comfort zone you bring only by emotion and not by logics. Then you have your stakeholders. Stakeholders might be business people, might be very different people. They have all their interests, big interests, money interests. They don't want to lose anything. So to get them on board, you really need to create win-win situations. Win-win situations, and also when you change their systems, think about how you make them to go for, to make this transition in a quite smooth way for them. Yes, so you really need to how to make these transitions for the people, for your stakeholder. And last but not least, when you go make something breakthrough, when you really change a system, then you might also think about the laws and government and the regulations. Does the regulation exist? Think about first time Bitcoins appeared. Did you have any regulations for Bitcoins? Or what is if you go for two disciplines, bringing them together? You also have to think which kind of regulations applies to your new product or service. So, do you have the expertise for everything? And what if you go global, but because the systems you don't change only locally, you have to go and think big and have a big impact about it. So all of you just, if you make such a system change, you have to manage all those circles. Yes, the society, the big players, your stakeholder, and the government and the laws. It's not a smooth approach. You really have to go and invest a lot of energy. Please include, from the design, you have to include everybody and to create this win-win situation. And you need an inclusive team so that you go about your bubble out. Your actions and interventions would be, should be really clear. You have to have a clear vision where you want to go. You have to have time and patience to experiment and see what goes wrong. You really need permission to try, and you need to have the flexibility and the perseverance to start over and over again. Think about emotions and inclusions. This emotional storytelling is this what makes you and brings you to the people out. And if you think about your investors, and this is where I think I make the crossover to the people here in financing, they should be somebody who align with your vision, with your ethical and moral aspects, that have an impact mission, and they also want to can offer you more than only money to invest, because in this case, to change the systems, you really need a big network, and that would be cool if they can offer things like this as non-financial. In our case, a lot of funding schemes are very project-oriented. You know, the waterfall-driven project is very good and a really good kind of thinking about incremental investing, but not incremental funding, but for actually system changing. You have to offer to the researchers the opportunity for those kind of safe spaces of experimenting. And we have for this two schemes that bring this one. And the one of them is the impact innovation, who allows you to include from the beginning all stakeholders and make with them workshops and experiment with them. The other one is Expedition Zukunft, where I'm the manager, and it goes even further, even in a much earlier phase, where you also can have like a feasibility study about your markets, what might be interesting in it. You can go for strategy, how to change the entrance on the market globally, or how, if you can analyze the products, how to go for it, so that it can made for it, or also only technical feasibility, but please still thinking all the aspects from diversity, from laws, from regulations to everything. What we offer extra for this Expedition Zukunft is that we also know that not everybody has all the knowledge needed. So we offer also with an expedition guide, that like mentoring, meeting from the FFG every 3 months. And also extra services that comes from professional consultancies like Deloitte or others, who deliver knowledge to business development, strategy development, and other things like that. We are a partner of this event, so we have our partner lounge in the main hall. So you can talk with us about these two programs of the FFG that are a bit different than the other programs of the FFG. Because also we allow societal changes. Yeah, our website you can't see right now. I'm sorry about it. And 4 of our startups are going to pitch today at 4:40. It's easy to remember, on the pitch stage. So please go for it if you really want to see something that has to do with breakthrough innovation. Thank you so much.
So we've heard what the public sector can do to really look at systemic change and do breakthrough innovations. Now we're going to talk about what the private sector, private investors across a wide spectrum can do. And I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves just very, very briefly. You can read up more about them online on their LinkedIn profiles. We just want to set the frame here. And to do that, really just your name and organization, which country you're from, what your organization does, your role in the organization, what that consists of, and your link to the topic of innovative finance. And I'm going to give it a try for myself. So, hi, I'm Nikolaus. I'm the co-founder of Relevant Ventures. We're a purpose venture catalyst, and we develop business and investment solutions to address humanitarian and planetary crisis and build peace. And my role is in strategy and business development. And the link to the topic of innovative finance is that we're developing, like I said, investment solutions, and we have several. One is called the Purpose Pool, and I'm going to weave that into a couple of the questions. It's using innovative instruments like revenue-based finance, peer selection as an investment process, to address some of the issues that we see as not functioning and potentially unjust in the finance system. So I'm going to hand over the microphone to Florian here next to me. And what's interesting is that we have a venture fund, a bank, Helena with a founder coach and operating background, and Gianfranco with the public sector financing background. So really the full spectrum almost. And yeah, Florian.
Thank you, Nikolaus. Yeah, my name is Florian. I'm a organic synthetic chemist turned entrepreneur turned impact investor, and I really enjoyed distilling, not only in the lab, distilling complex challenges into elegant solutions, and at the Get Fund, where I'm a partner at, we invest in climate tech startups in the growth stage, and I'm really excited to discuss and synthesize innovative solutions in this panel today on how we really integrate impact in business model and financing solutions to make it more scalable. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Margit and I'm from Erste Social Finance Holding. And this is one of those places in the Erste universe where impact and finance comes together, because we on the one hand are owned by the philanthropic Erste Stiftung, and on the other hand by the, let's say, money bank Erste Group. And what we are doing is to, on the one hand, to support social entrepreneurs on top or alongside the social finance we are providing through the bank. And we are also developing new investment possibilities for social entrepreneurs in a way that is not from an ivory tower, but we are really profoundly looking at what social entrepreneurs really need.
I'm Helena Frumson. I live in Cambridge, and I'm a co-founder in sustainable finance financial infrastructure group, starting with first business in Paris next year. I'm also a board advisor in a few startups and work with accelerators and investment funds to build the right commercial models and risk manage investments from the startup and investment fund perspective through the right commercial models. Sometimes this structure helps startups to not fail and helps systemic change to happen without extra capital or unlocking extra capital early in the stage and relieving startups from diluting their equity too much, so in fact preventing failures.
Hi everybody, I'm Gianfranco and I'm in charge of Finpiemonte, that is the regional development agency of Piemonte region in the northwest of Italy. And our activity is to provide incentives to support the local development with public support or incentives, especially on the RDF funds. And so we can bring the point of view of the public body. And of course we are committed in exploring, designing new financial instruments, new forms to support companies, especially with a view and the eyes pointed on impact, ESG, and all these goals that we have to reach in our activity. So.
Thank you. In the preparation, we discussed a little bit the framing, and we didn't just want to rattle through, you know, who does this and what's this instrument, what works, what doesn't, but we thought it's necessary to frame the conversation in the sense that why do we have to have this conversation in the first place? And I tend to put it, we have a series of events running on LinkedIn which is called Unfuck Finance. That finance is broken functionally and morally. It doesn't work, it doesn't channel, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, to channel liquidity into areas where it's most needed. And it is, in many cases, the default is unjust, extractive, amplifying inequalities, and exploitative, and I don't say by design, but by default. So I don't think there's some nefarious financiers that have been plotting this. It just so happened, and it so happened because there is a power gradient, and you know, Trump talks about the golden rule, those who have the gold make the rules, and that is very much in the sense that, you know, those who control finance, who own finance, financial resources, whether it's public or private, typically make the rules, and it needs a conscious effort to get to eye level. So we're going to talk about that. So what we said was that we're going to look into this and the act of repurposing finance and say how can we do better. But for that we need to establish first what does better mean in terms of functional aspects, how can it work better, but also in terms of moral aspects. And then we're going to look at a number of instruments, and each of the panelists is going to talk a little bit about the instruments that they see working, that they work with. And then we are going to open it up for a conversation with you and your questions and a dialogue with the audience. So maybe, Margit, I can start with you. Or anybody who wants to volunteer in terms of what's the purpose of finance. But also in this, to come back to this aspect of the power gradient. And what I found really interesting is that the Erste Bank, and I guess also going down to its legacy, how it was founded, and maybe you can explain that also a little bit, is a very conscious bank, always has been, and you're conducting a really interesting project, which is in a way a listening exercise to understand what are the people who need the finance to effectuate change, to finance change in society, what do they actually need? Yeah? So not to go back to the default of what has been done, by financial institutions, by banks, but how can we do better? Yeah? Can you explain a little bit about this?
Yeah, the first a little bit provocative question is for whom should we do better? But what I really mean that we should do better for the social entrepreneurs, and that's why we started to really to do together with our Hungarian partner Finpiemonte and with the funds, with European funds, to do a comprehensive research on. Interviewing, I think now it's more than 80 social entrepreneurs, in-depth interviews all over the markets where Erste is present. What do they really need? And what we found out, for example, is that there are so many different needs, starting with in terms of regional impact ecosystems. They're completely different. So with a product that fits one for all, this doesn't work. This doesn't work best as we want to have it work. And as you said, it should be. We are working on getting into discussion on an equal basis that I know, because otherwise it doesn't have either the bank as itself nor the social entrepreneur if we do the wrong products.
Yeah, I would like to add to, or take maybe a stance that I really believe finance is not a moral institution. It's more a tool and an instrument, like a technology. It doesn't have a moral good or bad. I believe it's more what you do with it and how you use it. And this is also, I think, what we as investors can affect, so we can talk about the business model. So I don't think we as a venture capital fund can change fundamentally the physics behind finance, but what we can do is we can really try to think how can we align the business models that we finance with how finance works and how we want to effectuate impact. So instead of trying to change the big force of finance, which is actually, I think, doing what it's supposed to do, it's about efficient allocation of resources, and yes, we need to do it better, and that's why we're here. But kind of our approach is we believe that we need to align the business models of the entrepreneurs that we finance in a way that we can get the financial return and the impact in a way that the impact is actually a competitive advantage that helps us to make more money. So this is kind of how we want to use the system against itself almost.
Yeah. I think I was going to take real issue with what you said from the previous conversations that we had. I know that we're quite aligned, so I think the difference here is semantic. But I agree with tool. I've noted this here, right? So finance, as every technology, is like a tool. So, but take a blade. A blade can be a guillotine designed to end life. It can be a scalpel to, save lives, or it can be a vegetable peeler. And so I'm with you. It really depends, but I'm not with you in the sense that it's completely moral free. because we have manifestations of finance that have developed to be rather extractive. And so try chopping vegetables with a guillotine, that doesn't really work. So I think we need to go into the nitty-gritty.
Yes. No, I totally agree. I just believe that the moral aspect is more in a concrete sphere of influence of everybody. What do you do with it? How do you deploy your financial resources? And not kind of the abstract layer of capital markets so much. So I think, or at least this is how I like to think about it, say what can I influence and how can I really make it better? And I don't think that I will be able to change the capital markets, how they work, but I can try to use the forces of the capital markets to express what I believe is a moral, right way to do it. So I totally agree, we shouldn't exploit people, we shouldn't extract resources. It is a profitable business model, but that doesn't mean you should do it.
Okay, Helena, I should grab the microphone from my hands.
Grab the microphone, right. If I think about finance, if I open finance book from university, probably one of the first 5 sentences will be, Chief Financial Officer in an organization should focus on delivering value to stakeholders. Now, to me, the finance question is, who are the stakeholders? How do we define the stakeholders? Are these people with gold? Or are those people in the community that will be bailing those people with gold after next financial crisis happen? Just similarly as regular Joe and regular Jane were bailing out banks back in 2008 and 9 and 10, etc. So we think that if we look at the stakeholder definition and we look at, in fact, every governmental grant, in the end of the day, it's your and mine, everybody's taxation money. If we look at benefit from what banks or any financial organization is benefiting from, it's not just the founders, it's not just these organizations, wider community. So to me, when we look at finance, I look, okay, do we benefit wider community? Because it takes a village to raise a child, and the village should somehow see a bit of a return, from my perspective, without even thinking about moral or lack of moral aspect, just benefit in whom.
Yeah, from the point of view of public policymakers, it's quite difficult because we have different ingredients and we have to decide a strategy. So first we compare finance to technology. So first of all, let's imagine a super technological device that cannot be used by users, and so first of all we have to think about financial tools that can be exploited by stakeholders. Who are stakeholders from our point of view? Of course, we have companies, entrepreneurs, but we have also investors. So these are 2 actors that we have to bring on a common goal, and we have to think about finance as a tool that can join in interests of different stakeholders, because we have to make the question better for whom, better financial instruments for whom. This because companies, investors and policymakers often have a little bit different goals, and we have to merge that goals in a common plane, a common strategy that is compliant with our final target.
Mm-hmm. Well, just to put that into perspective and how I think finance is linked to not just making the world a better place, but saving the world. Now, the SDGs, if the SDG financing need is €5, then all of philanthropy, private donations, institutional grants, public philanthropy, overseas development assistance is €1. Now, since Elon Musk took the chainsaw to USAID, that €1 is actually a pile of coins, maybe 85 cents, to finance €5. Now, the real economy, global GDP, is €100, and the financial economy is €1,000. So it's not that we don't have the money, it's just not available. So that's what I mean when I say finance is dysfunctional. It's not flowing where it is needed most. So maybe let's dig into that issue. And Helena, you had a really good point about systemic lack of support for entrepreneurs. The notion that we look at investment readiness, but very often it ticks the boxes and all the contracts are there. There's no investability in terms of, is there actually a business model that works, and how do we help entrepreneurs to get to that point where they become investable and then investment ready to absorb different degrees of formal investors, from very informal business angels to banks, for instance, who have more requirements. Yeah.
Thank you. When I look generally at resolving any problem, and pardon me, I have dyslexic thinking, so sometimes it's Mickey Mouse language and very, very shortcut into the result. I look, okay, we have a problem. Do we apply the right mechanism of resolving this problem? Because we can have a team of people or best investment bankers with genuine desire to fix things and to allow us prosper from a phenomenal cohort of startup leaders. But are we applying the right mechanisms to support these people? If we think that we're applying them, doesn't mean that we actually do. And we heard it yesterday in the gala dinner, right? We can invest 360 billion and achieve 0.3 or 3% of improvement, or we can invest 12 billion and achieve dramatic improvement. So, in other words, just doing something that we believe is good and right doesn't necessarily resolve actual problem. And what is the feedback? I work a lot with early stage startups, both middle stage startups, as board advisor, as mentor and founder institute, and find that people go in rounds, they cannot access finance. But when they access finance, it's all gibberish to them. Have you ever went to a bank and heard them selling you a product? Say, no, the risk is low, it's really cool. And you sit there and you don't understand it. And when I sit there with my derivatives background, they say, well, you're selling me a convertible bond. It's a high-risk instrument. Do you understand that? The salesperson doesn't understand it. If I were a teacher or a scientist that we find, especially in impact investment, we have many scientists who have no financial background. They sit there and they say, quasi equity? What is that? Explain it to me in simple words. You want VC investment of you want 30% of my equity table? Explain this to me. Why do you need 30% of my cap table? Please explain this to me. Because I have power and I have money. That's fine. But are you resolving the problem? What's the purpose of this exercise, right? So desperate founder on one side, worn out, trust me, 24 hours a day or 26 hours a day or whatever of work and effort. And on the other side, disconnected completely, financial instrument producer who wishes well. These are not people who come to screw startups, these are people who come in to help, but completely disconnected because there is very little dialogue happening between them. So that is my view, and sorry, I'm not being doom and gloom, there are instruments to fix it, and we'll talk about them later as well, but it really hurts to see 90% of startups collapsing just because they don't have access to, not to finance, but to the right type of finance, with the right type of operating mentoring and support that would handhold them to success. And maybe one of those, by the way, is the genius who would resolve the climate change and, doom and gloom and fight Martians if they land here tomorrow, but we failed them because they didn't have access to what they needed to have access to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just have to add, because I fully agree, and this is something that I really learn with my work every day with social entrepreneurs. It's what they really need is to get some, let's say, first to speak a language that they understand, because our Bankish is just, it's Bankish and almost nobody understands it. The second thing is to kind of give them an opportunity to learn about financial instrument, and that's a little bit let's say, a twofold thing because usually they don't have the time to do so. So what we did, we started last year, was our capacity building program for social entrepreneur, which was called Mark. And we had the first cohort, it was finished last week, and we had this big celebration. It was really touching to see how those social entrepreneurs developed, that they really were on a completely different level, and to see the first successes they had. And it was just for a month, a little bit more in being involved in financial terminology, and they really got some one-to-one support, and it was really kind of big success. Just doing the small things.
Yeah, thank you. We need to talk about the innovative finance instruments, and we're kind of 10 minutes out from the. So I would like to switch to that, and just to give a very brief overview, there is structured financial instruments like impact bonds or basket bonds, outcome payments, social impact incentives, etc. Non-financial support that Helena already mentioned, but this also includes like joint ventures, strategic partnerships, kind of access to financing which lies outside of the finance industry. Then alternative instruments, really like quasi-equity revenue-based finance, alternative loan models and things like that. And then very interestingly, this is something that GetFunds does, and maybe we're going to start with that, Florian, a kind of way to internalize, to integrate externalities, both positives like value that is not captured and that is kind of karmic and not captured as profit, but also cost like CO2 that is also borne by everybody. So Florian, talk to us a bit about the GetFund triple top line model.
Yeah, thank you, Nikolaus. So what we've been doing at the GetFund since 15 years, we were one of the first venture capital funds to have an ESG reporting. And we quickly got really frustrated with the ESG reporting per se, because it's just a backward-looking topic, right? So you are working with a fast-growing company that is forward-looking, and nobody really cares what the energy consumption of a fast-growing startup was 12 months ago. So we really thought, how can we have a more strategic framework to really do what Nikolaus just said? How can we really integrate the positive impact and draw an economic value out of it? And we do this by leveraging the triple top line, which was not developed by us, but by Professor Braungart and McDonough. Maybe you know them from the cradle-to-cradle concept. And they've developed it for sustainable product development. And the sustainable product is actually part of a sustainable business model. So we kind of tweaked it a bit. And use the triple top line, which consists of economy, ecology, and equity from the social perspective, social equity. And we really look at the business models through that lens holistically, even though we're incentivized to optimize for ecological impact. We really believe that you cannot overlook the social aspect of it. And maybe I give you a quick example how it kind of transcends. So we financed a battery storage company called Sonnen, and they built battery for PV, residential storage. And of course, the economic aspect was they wanted to sell as many batteries as possible. But the reason for people to buy the battery was that actually they could store their PV power during the day, use it at night, and reduce their CO2 footprint. So the ecological impact is a CO2 reduction, and the more CO2 we reduce, the more batteries we sell, and also there's an economic payoff by self-consuming your PV electricity. So this is kind of how we linked the ecological impact to making more money. Now comes the question, how do we do it for the social aspect? Well, we wanted to have as many people as possible access to battery plus PV, but it's quite expensive. Not everybody has 20,000 euros lying on the bank account to buy such a system. So what we did is, and that was before it actually was bankable, now it is, but at the time we did it, it wasn't. So we started special purpose financing vehicles, doing some financial engineering so we could offer no money down financing solutions to more people. So more people in the society have access to the system, which is good for the society, but also it's good for our top line because more people having access actually means we make more money. So this is how we want to kind of create a way of investing and designing business models that there is no trade-off between having an impact and financial return. Because some investors still ask us, yeah, how much return do you give up for having a positive impact? We're like, no, it's the other way around. We actually want to create more return by having more impact.
Thank you. Maybe to the structured instruments, Gianfranco, can you talk us a bit through what you do, the basket bonds, the social impact incentives, and so on?
Yeah, first of all, we are working on these instruments, pointing some goals, as I told you before, from different point of view. So for companies, for entrepreneurs, and for investors. From the point of view of companies, of course, we are trying to simplify bureaucracy and to target our instruments better to the needs of entrepreneurs. On the other side, from the point of view of investors, in order to join all the interests of and make a leverage effect on private resources, we work on the risk perception or actual risk or risk perception, because not always impact investments are so risky as they are perceived by investors. And so we work on risk mitigation for investors. And the other side is to reduce timing, you know, on the investments, and so the return for profit for investors, because of course impact investments are as a timing quite longer than short-term profit. And so on one side we are working on basket bonds. They are mini bonds, they are portfolio. Well, the portfolio is another important issue in our strategy. That means diversifying risk for investors, because you collect different risk profiles, different companies in a portfolio. And so the basket bond is a portfolio of mini bonds with public and private investors, and with the public bodies providing risk mitigation to private investors. And in this scheme we can work as they are quite simple, quite easy financial instruments. They leave companies quite free in allocating the financial resources they collected, instead of differently from I don't know, incentives or ERDF funds that ties with several rules. The mini bonds are quite free, and so we can work easily to think about impact for these instruments, about impact measurement, and so to have outputs, let me say outputs better, that are social, from a social environment and governance point of view. On the other side, we are working on a typical outcome fund that, of course, is dedicated to other targets, and they are, in this case, needs, so young unemployed people. And in this case, we are trying to make another step forward. That is, think not only about measuring outputs, but a real outcome of our action. And this is, I think, one of the most important challenges for us policymakers is to think not about only about let me say rates on percentage and rates on using public resources, but also on results and impact in using public resources.
Okay, thank you. We're a bit running out of time, and I want to make sure that we still have some time for questions, and maybe we take 1 or 2 minutes more. But Margit and or Helena, anything you would like to add? Very short statements, either on the quasi-equity or non-financial models like JVs, strategic partnerships, or alternative loan models.
Yeah, just those quasi-equity thing. At first, I have to say we are a bank with social banking entities in each of our banks in CE and in Austria, and I think the real resource is that people who are working there, they know what social entrepreneur needs. And I think this is, apart from the financial aspect, a very, let's say, supportive aspect for them. The other thing is what we are offering is quasi-equity. This is some sub-debt with some kind of, let's say, interest-only payments the first 4 years, and with no collaterals, because we see that this is sometimes a real problem for impact entrepreneurs. And it is, in a way, at least a little bit linked to what kind of impact, or let's say how high the impact they generate is linked to the pricing. So that's what we are offering at the moment. And yeah, we are working together with those social entrepreneurs on further instruments.
Just a few words. Sometimes in startups, both collectively, startups, VCs, and corporations collectively forget that monetization and commercial model as such is investment instrument. And I encourage and I ask for empathy between one and another, and looking at startups not as someone who asks for, a few pennies and begs for these few pennies. Collectively, more or less, investment community deploys someone else's money, so we can do with a bit humble attitude, a bit more humble attitude, right? It's someone else's, typically, not ours, not yours. So it would be great to look at the opportunity. Can we create joint venture, even if this startup is relatively young? Can we embed their product early in the stage, allowing them to earn a few pennies and keep the lights on until their next round? Can we look at it creatively, because all of this, joint venture, partnerships, channel selling, is opportunity for them to survive, and typically it's a very cheap opportunity for a large organization to support this success and relieve them of small supply risk, which doesn't let them sell in the beginning. So I'd love to ask for this empathy and encourage communication and collaboration on that front.
Thank you very much. Would you like to add something? Okay. Yeah, so that we still have room for 1 or 2 questions. I will conclude it here. I hope you got a bit of an insight and an overview of how we can do better, both morally and functionally, in the finance system, and what role the private sector across its many layers can play, from instruments, from processes, from structures, as a way of making saving the world the default and the most profitable option. That this is not just something that can be done through regulation, it can be done all the way up from entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial investing, operational support, innovative instruments, innovative financing structures, innovative ways of looking at it, reframing the top line, yeah, and through that integrating externalities, both positive and negative. So thank you very much, my panelists. And before we give them a big round of applause, I just want to see if there's 1 or 2 questions here. Sorry, that lady was first, but then we can.
Thank you for these explanations. Thank you, Helena, especially for your last statement. I was wondering, I'm into impact investing a bit since several years. I've discussed with Charlie Kleisner several rounds. And I'm wondering how you measure the impact, and how you try to, not only have the focus on the monetary side, on the return on investment, but also how you integrate the impact side, and not only outcome and output, but really impact. Thank you.
to any specific person on that panel? Okay, thank you. Who wants to take that question? Yeah.
Yeah, I happily take it. So, as I explained, we use the triple top line to define business model specific impact KPIs that are very strategic for the entrepreneur. So they want to track it not just because of the impact reason, and that way we kind of build a trajectory. How do we want to grow the business economically and on an impact status? Yeah, we track, are we achieving those KPIs or not, both financially and impact. And it could be CO2 reduction, it could be clean water, it could be energy efficiency, depending really on the business model. And then we try to optimize for that impact, because not every business model can achieve the same amount of impact.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, I'm surprised I've heard nothing on the panel about blended finance and first loss guarantees. It's an instrument we use a lot to leverage private finance, especially in emerging markets. Is that because the panel thinks that's not the right instrument for impact?
We ran a bit out of time, but Gianfranco touched it a little bit. And in a way, indirectly, Margit touched it, because the social equity program is backed by a guarantee by the European Investment Fund. But yeah, maybe just very short statements from you on this.
Yeah, we work on that technical form to get the final result. And so we, for example, the basket bond, the portfolio is guaranteed by a policymaker. Can be us or a governative national body on first losses. And so we use. We are in particular shifting in the last 5 years, let me say, every kind of instrument from single guarantee to portfolio guarantees, and then from traditional guarantee to securitization, and they are quite effective to attract private investors. Yeah, I confirm.
Thank you. Margit, you want to answer anything?
Yeah, just reusing this EIF guarantee for social entrepreneurs. And this is, on one hand, yes, it guarantees us financial losses, but it also has the due to this guarantee, we have to look a little bit more into what kind of impact do those companies create. And we are also, let's say, we have to measure their impact, we have to set themselves goals. So it's not only about the guarantee, but it also, let's say, fosters the impact thinking within the banks, which is great.
Yeah, maybe just to set you up for a controversial discussion over lunch. I have a very ambivalent relationship to blended finance, because sometimes it amounts, those are great guarantees, yeah? Especially this one with the Erste Bank, because like Margit said, it raises the standard in terms of impact measurement and codifying impact measurement, making that conditional upon the guarantee. And what Gianfranco said also in his earlier statement and just now, it's almost like an arbitrage thing, right? Where the market is seeing the risk or mispricing the risk, and if you're close, it's not the devil, but the angels are in the detail. And you can make money out of that by letting investors pay to get the risk covered, because you know that actually the risk, or you feel it because you have your finger on the pulse. Those are good guarantees, those are great instruments of blended finance. Very often, and this is where I really have a moral issue with it, it amounts to subsidizing investor returns with philanthropic money. And this, I think, one really needs to look at what happens there, but that amounts, if you take the Pareto principle, you take it away from the most vulnerable to, like I said, subsidize investor returns. And there's a bit of a flushing out of the market, but there's still some blended finance which effectually comes down to that. And I think that's something we shouldn't be tolerating. Thank you very much. Thank you, my panelists. And please, a round of applause for everyone.